Hello, listener. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. Yep, I'm already dropping jewels just by you listening to this podcast. There's a creation tool that allows you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. How simple is that? Anchor will do all the work for you by distributing your podcast for you so you can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. Not to mention, you can make money from your podcast as well with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So what are you waiting on? Download the Anchor app and get busy. Hello, listener. Inconsistently Consistent Podcast. Listen, there is 168 hours in a week, and I try not to waste my time at all on this earth. Sometimes when I'm out driving and thinking, I start to think about all that I do. If you ever seen the show In Living Color, they do a segment on Jamaican people. No disrespect to Jamaican people, but at the time, and I still do laugh to this day, this segment, when I watch it, they're joking on how Jamaicans have like 15 jobs that they do. And at this point in time, I feel like I have like 15 jobs that I do. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't always think like this. I didn't always keep my focus on the things that I needed to do. I kept my focus on one thing at a time, and I tried to make that one thing work. But I kept finding out is that the one thing that I did or tried to do, if it didn't work out or I failed at it, I would have to start over or find something else to get into. And so if I'm jumping around on all these different things, it makes me seem like I'm unsure or that I don't know what I'm doing. But the weird thing is, the older that I get, the more I feel like I need work and projects, to feel better about what I'm doing. It makes me feel like I'm in demand somehow in my own little world, in my own head. It makes me feel like I'm needed somewhere. So I told myself before any of this happened, I wanted to be a mogul. That was the main goal. I wanted to be a mogul. I wanted to run multiple companies. Because I seen like the likes of Puffy. I seen like the likes of Damon Johns. I was going to say Damon Dash. Well, shit, Damon Dash too. So, Elon Musk, and the list goes on. I don't need to explain this to you. The list goes on. Powerful men that run multiple different things inside their company. And moguls, exactly what they do. I don't have to explain it to you. Moguls don't just have one job. They got several. So allow me to list out the things I do in a day and sometimes broken down into a week, just depending on how the hours shape up. So I'm like a little baby mogul in the making. I'm like in mogul school before I become like a full-on mogul. At least that's what I think in my head. Once again, I got all these visions inside my head that I play around with on a daily basis. So anyways, I wake up, I should say, at 4:40 a.m. every morning. And I work for a popular bank called Chase. And I do this for 8 hours a day for my work week, which is 40 hours. In between those 8 hours, while I'm taking lunch, I might be working on some music or either making a beat. And sometimes I'm able to get away with making a beat, mixing, mastering, and doing everything like that, checking on weird in between calls, if I'm lucky. So that's sales, marketing, new merch that I got to look after. If someone bought a product, making sure it gets shipped to the customer. I'm in control of all of this. And all of this while taking calls and providing the best customer experience for people who are late paying their bills. So, some might say, why don't you quit Chase and focus on your business ventures? I don't know about you, but I got bills to pay, and I can't afford to feed my kids with my dreams. So, shortly after writing some lyrics for the beat that I just made, or maybe I won't even make no lyrics. Maybe I'm not feeling the beat at that point in time, so I just spend my time making a beat. I might make a post or two for some of the projects that I have going on, or for Weird, because obviously, this shit just doesn't sell itself. It's dope and all, but there's still got to be some marketing behind it. And that goes for the podcast as well, too. So now I'm jumping across all these different social media platforms just to get my presence known. On some real shit, you should see me sometimes as I'm sitting in my office. I got 2 headsets on. One headset is for me taking calls for Chase, and then the other set of headphones is so I can hear the beat or hear the music or listen back to what I might have spit into the microphone to make sure that everything sounds right. I'm like multitasking heavy as fuck on a daily basis. Thank God for coffee, because this is all done before 8 o'clock, sometimes before 9. So now, not only do I spend my time recording the lyrics right inside my office, I have to mix and master just to get it right. So then that way, when you hear the music, it doesn't sound off or it doesn't sound fucked up. And that goes for the podcast as well. So once my 8 hours is done and I'm free to move around, now it's time to maybe work on the podcast. So I head to the quiet part of my house, i.e. the closet, and record a show. And while recording the show, once again, I'm probably doing some mixing at the same time. So once again, I'm multitasking, trying to get 2 jobs done at one time. Once the show is done, it's time to upload it. It's time to put the flavor behind it. So then that way, when you guys get it on Sunday, you guys are able to see it. It's there. It's consistent. So question, have I worn you out yet with just a little bit that I do within a little portion of my day? Because I'm not finished. Once that's done, or once I'm done with the show, I head out and do my other job. That's Uber Eats driving. Yep, I deliver fast food to you all until the sun goes down. Make it back home in time to eat some dinner, watch a little TV. You know what's weird is that I used to watch TV all the time. And I would go to my job, not Chase, but I would go to my job and I would be like, hey, did you see this show? Hey, did you see this show? And now I don't even say that anymore. Some people come up to me and they ask me, hey, have you seen this show? Or what do you think about this show? And I can't answer them. I'm like one of those people that are like, I don't watch TV. I thought that shit was the weirdest thing for people to say, that they don't watch TV. But now I fall into that category because I'm so busy. I don't have time to watch TV anymore. So after that, I fall asleep and then I wake up and do it all over again. Not in that particular order. Sometimes if I'm not working on a podcast, I'm working on my book. It's just a lot to do in one day. So I'm never sitting still. I'm always moving around. I'm always trying to keep pushing the goal, keep pushing the dream out. So I run Weird Recordings, Weird Clothing Company, Inconsistently Consistent Podcast. I'm a recording artist. I'm writing a book, and not to mention I'm helping other artists out. I'm helping them push for their dreams as well under Weird Recordings. And with all of that, I'm a husband and a father. So I'm juggling a whole lot. Oh yeah, and let me not mention that I'm just one man. There's no team helping me out here with any of this. I'm doing it all on my own. I didn't go to school to get a degree, so everything that I'm doing is self-taught. So why do I tell you all of this? It's not because I'm trying to brag and trying to make you see how hard I work and to make you see that I'm a mogul in the making. It's not for none of that. It's because if you're like me and you work as hard as I do, you might have some offspring. Because I got offspring. I got kids. So don't you ever wonder why your kids don't work as hard as you? So this whole thought came to me because I was watching YouTube and I was watching Vlad TV, and Lord Jamar was on Vlad TV being interviewed, and he brought up this topic, just kind of brushed over it, but it made me think. He said with the career that he has in music, he will bust his ass for some equipment that he might needed to push his music further into making his own music on his own time. So he needed equipment to build his own studio out. He would keep doing this until he got what he wanted, busting his ass, i.e. He would keep doing that until he got what he wanted. And he understood that he had to work hard in order to get what he wanted. And he couldn't just talk about it. He actually had to put his money where his mouth was, so to speak. It's just not going to miraculously just happen. So he brought up his son. He said his son gets busy on the mic like him. And he ultimately ended up telling his son that he could work in the studio that he built. Lord Jamar built out a studio after all this hard work. And he tells his son, hey, you can work out of my studio making your music. If you know anything about making music, I'm really just talking to my artists that have been in the game maybe 20, 30 plus years. And before then, I guess, so to say that as well too. So anyone that's been making music a long time knows that there's a studio where you go to make music, you record your music, and in this studio, it's mixing and mastering, and you have an engineer, so you could just play the artist, and that's what you do. But yo, that shit is expensive. I don't know how much money I've given the engineer that's been working on my projects. Yo, that shit is expensive before today's time where you could just have a home studio and you could do everything from home. Back in the day, and I don't want to sound old, but back in the day, fuck it, no. I don't care if I sound old. Back in the day, that shit was expensive and I had to come out of pocket. So that's what kept me working. I kept the job, not only to pay my bills, but to pay for this expensive ass studio time. So having your own studio makes work like so easy. I would even go as far to say that it might make your work better because you're free to be yourself. You're in your own element. So back to the story. So Lord Jamar has his own studio at his home and it's open to his son, but his son has not took advantage of the opportunity handed to him. He really didn't have the hard work instilled in him. He would rather go find other studios and hang out with his friends and find other people to make music with, ultimately not putting a lot of his music out at this point because I don't know who he is. The point is, he didn't have to work as hard to get his own studio or buy his own equipment. His father provided him with all the equipment in his own studio and the ability to make his own music, and his son didn't take advantage of it, moving on to the next venture, tattooing.
I know you're enjoying the show, but we gotta pay some bills. Period.
If you're an independent artist making music in 2020, then you know just as well as I do that shit just got real. With no more shows and no more venues to make money from, your money's gonna start to dry up really quick. I just downloaded this app called Loom, that's L-U-M. This app allows you as the fan to support your favorite artist directly, and you as the artist to get paid for what it is that you do. No middleman in between, so download the Loom app and discover some new music. P.S. You can find all my music by searching Eric, that's E.R.I.K, inside of the Loom app. Now back to the show. So, Lord Jamar once again told his son he would fully support him in this venture, and the first thing he did was bought his son a tattoo gun, even going as far as letting his son tattoo his hands. Tattooing ink is fucking permanent. But yet again, his son hasn't made a business out of tattooing. It was just something that he talked about, and he didn't really take the full advantage of what was being given to him. So the point that I'm making right here is that here it is, parents, we bust our ass to provide opportunities to our kids, and it just seems like our kids, they don't really take advantage of the opportunity that we lay out for them. They want to take the struggle route. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with struggling and trying to figure it out, but we try to help you and shield you from that struggle that we had to go to because we lack funds and we lack education. I try to talk to my kids about taking advantage of all the opportunities handed to them. That's why I work towards building a brand so they don't have to work as hard as me. Whoever thought Levi would still be around? I'm sure Mr. Levi didn't know that he would be around, but Mr. Levi kept working and building on his brand and keeping it alive, so one day, eventually, it could take off, and his kids' could come into generational wealth and do what they wanted to do. Sometimes they listen, sometimes they don't. But I guess in a way, I was the same way when I was younger. I mean, my mom bought me a keyboard when I was like 10. I didn't know how to play the keyboard, so all I knew is how to turn it on and press a couple of buttons, and I would hear some cheap pre-made beats. That's the extent of what I knew as far as with the keyboard, the Yamaha that I had at that point in time. So the keyboard would go unnoticed, collecting dust in my room until I was about 15 years old when I pulled it out, trying to start my own band, thinking that would be the way I was going to start my musical journey. Well, in a way it was. But I'm sure my mom busted her ass to get me this keyboard, but it went unnoticed and it collected dust. And I didn't even touch it for years, at least 5. If I could go back to that time in my life and tell my younger self to take advantage of having the keyboard, and this would be the start of a career that you would go on to have as an adult, I probably would have took it a little bit more serious. I probably would have took advantage of the opportunity, maybe getting some lessons, because as kids, yeah, we don't know a lot of people, but I was ambitious. So I probably could have found somebody to give me lessons without my mom interacting or having to find somebody to do it for me. Within 10 to 15, within that 5-year span, yeah, I probably could have found somebody to show me how to play it. who knows how far I would have been. But I can't dwell on the past and all the choices that I made when I was younger. I can only look back and hope my kids don't make the same mistakes I did when I was younger. Matter of fact, I'm gearing them not to make the same mistakes that I did when I was younger. Thanks for listening. This podcast is produced and recorded by me. I'm the only one behind the scenes making this podcast happen, so listening and spreading the word would be greatly appreciated. You can now support the podcast by donating to my Cash App by just simply searching Inconsistently. And my partner Anchor FM has made it easy for you to support the show as well. The link will be in the description of this episode. If you haven't got a chance to pick up some Inconsistently Consistent merch on WeirdClothingCompany.com, your time is running out. The season finale is next week. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed yourself. I'm sure your ears will thank your brain later. Inconsistently Consistent. I'm out. This episode of Inconsistently Consistent was produced and recorded by Eric G. Polk, aka Everything Real is Known. This is a Weird Recordings production.